So the first question, I'm going to paraphrase it and sort of chunk it into what I think hopefully is useful. So really it's sort of when people are doing well with recovery quite a lot of the time, but then in these periods of higher stress or anxiety, suddenly the insight goes and suddenly it all seems much more believable and harder to resist. And it's happening sort of less, but it's still very powerful when it does happen. People are recovering from it quicker, but it's still intense and quite difficult. Yeah, this is very common, and I think lots of people I work with experience this. I think, one thing is just committing to daily practice, keeping those skills going. If they're strong, if they're there will come a point that it doesn't matter if it suddenly is incredibly intense. It is there, it is available, it's ready for you. Including in real crises, right? People who do well in their recovery. I mean, I was talking to a wonderful therapist at the IOCDF that, she had very severe OCD as a child in the sort of 80s, had, severe eating disorder, had been inpatient, multiple suicide attempts, had psychoanalysis because that was the therapy at the time, had been very unhelpful. And then eventually had found a way to ERP and behavior therapy and had done really well and now is a therapist. And she was telling me she'd just gone through cancer treatment. She just had breast cancer, all very surprising out of nowhere, not expected, and all had ramped up and escalated very quickly. And she had handled it fantastically. So she had coped with all the chemotherapy, very minimal like very little pain medication, everything minimal, very little fear, really had handled it as well as you could imagine anyone, and had wanted to keep going, but her doctor had said, I think you should probably not go and do all these things and let's just chill out for a little bit of time. And she'd listened to them. And then had post-traumatic growth, had come out of it feeling stronger, feeling more connected to life, feeling, more hopeful, more savoring, more gratitude, really inspiring person to talk to. And that was all because she'd built a very strong recovery, throughout her life. So, I think that is one thing, is just, it can be an indication just to keep going with that practice and maybe even do more. Another thing is anticipating it. So if we can get a view of what the pattern of this is, okay, let's get ahead of it. We might even need to balance our lifestyle if we are getting very stressed and this triggers stuff. Okay, are we doing the right flow of self-care and looking after ourselves? If we are, okay, let's just anticipate this. If we know that something is difficult coming up, then let's be ready and, do some mental rehearsal, do some prepping, set some goals. I always find that we've got to get so familiar with that sort of urgency feeling and that sense of like, I've got to do something now and it's super, super important. I've got to solve it or I've got to prevent it now. And learning at a very deep intuitive level that I can't trust that signal. When that comes in that way, I cannot trust it. And, some of that is workability, that my experience tells me it doesn't help me. Actual crises won't show up like that. They won't show up with this real urgency. People are often calm when there's real urgency, or, there won't be all the doubt and all the kind of compulsions there. If it's a real crisis, it'll be just a sense of like, right, act, do something, so trusting that like I can identify that pattern and I'm not going to believe that pattern automatically when it shows up. That's what I do a lot, because it's not like my brain doesn't try and do this stuff at times, but I'm so quick at like catching that kind of, oh God, stomach dropping away, and like my body wants to move and start doing something, and then my mind wants to go million miles an hour ruminating and analyzing, doing mental compulsions, when all that, and like I don't feel it at that intensity, but I can feel the beginning of that, very subtle, right away. Skills, I can't trust this will not help me in my life, this will make me less safe. The examples I've shared with people of the person we know in the recovery community that was in their compulsions, they were in a conversation, they were in their compulsions, they walked away and they fell through a skylight and they fractured their hip, and that was all because they were in compulsions. OCD wasn't keeping them safe, it was distracting them from actual danger. And I've had another client who said, he was deep in his compulsions walking up the motorway, like really dangerous cars almost hitting him and stuff, because he was so in the compulsions and having to retrace a route and do things. So OCD is not keeping us safer. You wouldn't want your aeroplane pilot to be in this kind of mode. You'd want them to be calm, focused, following the checklists, following the recommended protocols, and not rushing around with urgency trying to fix things or ruminate and solve things. So, it's really getting familiar with that pattern and very quick. And then there's a lot of urge surfing, because there'll be a strong urge in that place. It's like a really strong urge to do compulsions. So we've got to get stronger with our urge surfing muscles, and then learn through it. Like, even if we get hooked, okay, it's not the end of the world. No one recovers in a straight line. No one does this and nails everything perfectly. Okay, so let's analyze it afterwards. Why did it trip me up? Why was it so believable? What caught me out there? What can I learn for next time? And let's make the commitment. I'm going to catch you next time and do even better.